Hi, everybody. So I really want to go through these charts for my new book on my other channel, but I don't have enough subscribers yet, so I can't do live streams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the live stream on this channel, and then once I'm done with the live stream, I'm going to download it and upload it to my new channel, Life Abolitionism. But I actually changed the title of the book, which I'm not sure that this is the final title that I'm actually going to use, but I'm still playing around with it, right? I still have time to figure out where I actually want to go with it. My original title didn't really encapsulate what the book was about because it's not just about the right to die. It's also about the total enslavement of your current existence, right? And what you are entitled to in the absence of the right to opt out. So I still have some ideas, some alternative ideas for the book title, but for right now, this is what I have. Whose Life Is It? The Moral Debt for Life Enslavement, which was not the original title. The original title was Whose Life Is It? Without the Right to Die, You Don't Actually Own Your Life. But um, I know this looks kind of basic, but it took me a long time to come to do this, to come up with this book cover, because I did this myself using Canva. And these things did not come out of a vacuum, right? These are things that people have actually said directly or indirectly to me. Or it's not just to me, but these are the justifications for why they procreate and why they are against mate, right? So they want you here to obey their unjust laws, right? Which I have a whole chapter about judicial tyranny, how they basically they provide a forum for you to go to just to basically explain why your oppression is justified, and then they send you home and you're supposed to accept it, and then you have a lifetime of moral injuries because although you have rights on paper, they're not legally enforced. So you're just supposed to accept it, right? So be successful. Um, it's not even for your benefit. They want you to be successful because they want to exploit you. They want money from you. They want social status from you. They're looking to get something out of it. So they don't want you to leave, right? They want you here so they can extract. This is all an entire racket. This is a system of abject slavery, right? It doesn't look like it's slavery because they've concocted some very sophisticated mechanisms to make you think that you're actually free, but you're not. And I'm going to talk to y'all briefly about the disposal test, but this is the ultimate test of whether you actually own your life and whether you're actually free. Live for me, right? So this is what Sam Balkin said. Sam Balkin, I thought he was a psychologist. He's not. I think he has a PhD in philosophy. He did a whole video about how he doesn't support MAID because of how it would negatively impact the surviving family members, the loved ones. So live for me, right? So basically be miserable, be long suffering for everyone else's benefit. And that's fine, right? That's fine because I have addressed all of it, right? I'm going to get to the whole socialism component in a minute. Follow my morals. So if you're Christian, if you just don't believe in it, you should just live to justify my beliefs because it makes me uncomfortable. And according to my religious beliefs or according to my morals, what you're trying to do is wrong. So I'm going to enslave you. And that's fine. Like I said, I have addressed all of this. You can enslave me all you want, but there's going to be consequences. There's going to be moral and social consequences for it. Validate me. You know, you're your existence validates people. It validates the entire social framework that you exist, right? You're validating your community, right? You're validating your place of employment. You're validating the government. Um, one of the things that is very problematic is that people can't be happy in a vacuum, right? Happiness does not exist in a vacuum. So it's always at someone else's expense, right? So they're successful because it's in relation to somebody else. So they have money and someone else is poorer than them, right? Or someone else is less successful. And so that validates them that they get to compare themselves to others, right? So you get to be at the bottom totem pole of the totem pole, and that makes them feel better because they're high on a hierarchy. Socially, politically, all of it, right? Your existence validates their existence. So, like, if there were just no people, specifically the government, right? If there were no slaves for the government to control, the government could not function. But they need you to function. So, give me grandkids, right? Because they want this system of life slavery to continue indefinitely ad infinitum, right? Smile for me. So, I know this may not seem like something that is too taxing, but the smile component is crucial because that gives legitimacy to the entire life enslavement system, right? They want you to not just be enslaved, but they want you to be happy about it. At least give performative happiness, right? Put on a fake smile. I don't think people realize how much that is emphasized in society. How when you're at work, when you go anywhere in public, they want you to be a smiling idiot to make them feel comfortable, right? Because another component that I address in the book is the social responsibility that comes with democracy, right? They created the dangerous instrumentality. This is their system. And so they don't want to actually address the systemic oppression, the system of life slavery, right? They want to live in their little bubble. It's every man for himself. So you don't get to be upset. You don't get to be distressed about your existential predicament because it's going to make other people uncomfortable. So you have to put on a fake smile so that they get to shirk their social responsibilities in their democratic society, right? This is their democracy. It's not ours. We don't support this shit. Justify my ethics. I want to review this video, which, gosh, I need to get my other channel up to where I can actually do live stream because I want to review this video of the so-called vegan who said he was an anti-natalist and now he's no longer an anti-natalist. His reasons were not compelling at all. From what I gather, it was because we need humans to exist to protect wildlife. So you're going to subject someone to a lifetime of enslavement in order to save wildlife? Are you out your fucking mind? No. And that's why this philosophy is so comprehensive, because all those moral questions are completely resolved. You just basically just use these simple tests, right? If you want to enslave me to save the wildlife or whatever your ethical framework happens to be, that benefits you. That does not benefit me. There are no justifications for procreation that benefit those who are brought into existence. All justifications benefit those who currently exist, right? It benefits him as a vegan. He wants more vegan advocates or whatever your ethical framework is. So this is enslavement. And so you go to the root cause of it, and it is it's procreation. So you don't liberate one group, in this case animals, by enslaving another group. Because what what ends up happening is the group that you're trying to liberate, i.e., animals, they don't end up getting liberated. They end up being more enslaved than they currently are. And that's for any ethical framework. Human existence does not liberate anyone, because the trap is that you have to harm others for your own survival. That's the gotcha. If you want to be happy, if you want to be successful, if you want to thrive, if you want to flourish, what Aristotle called eudaimonia, most of it comes at the expense of other people. It comes from taking money from other people, manipulating someone into having sex with you, getting someone to buy dinner for you, getting someone to pay attention to you, right? So happiness does not exist in a vacuum. So most of the time, people's happiness comes at other people's expense. And so you cannot create an egalitarian society by procreation. No, the way that you increase your numbers is through proselytization, which I've talked about before also. You basically convince people through the strength of your arguments, not by creating new children to increase your numbers. What this guy is espousing is completely unethical. Again, once I get my channel to where I can actually do live streams, I'm going to review that video, because it made absolutely no sense. So that's the book cover, right? There are other things that I could have said in there, but I mean, obviously I couldn't put everything in there. But the whole purpose of this book cover is to get people's attention so that they will actually want to read the book. But I want you to know that the reason that they don't support me is entirely selfish. It's not for your benefit. It's for society's benefit. Now let me go to this next one. This is the disposal rights test. Let me see if there's anybody here. Okay, we got some people here. Thank y'all. Canada's law on medical assistance in dying allows eligible individuals to receive assistance and end their life, which can be administered by a doctor or nurse practitioner. That's good to know. Yeah, I thought they kind of, they had an original, I don't know if they call it the Supreme Court in Canada, whatever their highest court is. I thought that they modified that law, that case law. Anyway, I need to go back and research Canada, because I thought that they were going back on allowing MAID for those who were just suffering from mental health problems. That I don't know. I don't know the law in Canada, but as far as I know, the Netherlands or Sweden, right? I think they have the most progressive MAID laws over in Europe, but I'm not sure. I need to go back and check Canada, because I think there have been some changes. Right, a medical condition, but not a mental health condition. So let's get to this disposal rights test. Do you own your life? And this is the test. This is the analysis that is used when it comes to property, right? As I told y'all, courts do not recognize a property interest in a person's life. The way the courts have framed it is it's a liberty interest, not a property interest. Even when it comes to, okay, they call it a quasi, you have a quasi property interest when it comes to your body, like when it comes to donating organs and genetic material. The ironic thing is that although they won't actually articulate a property interest in your own life or your own body, once you die and your body becomes the property of your loved ones, then all of a sudden they do recognize it as a property interest, right? So when you die, your body becomes the property of your estate. but when you're alive, you don't have any property rights in your own person? That doesn't make any sense. So do you own your life? And the test is, can you dispose of it? The foundation is property ownership requires the right to dispose of the property. So if you own your life, then yes, you are the owner. But if you don't, then you're not the owner. Can you legally achieve medical assistance without state imposed criteria? No, because the entity that controls the disposal is the true owner. Not if you don't have disposal rights, then you just have possession right or possessory rights, right? So you can have an apartment. It's your apartment, right? But that doesn't mean that you're the owner. You just have possessory rights. You have a lease, and you get to use it during the duration of your lease. But that is subject to the dictates of the actual owner. So the owner is going to say, okay, well, you can't have pets, right? You can't have more than 5 people in this apartment, right? Because they're the owner, they get to decide. But the reason the state is the owner because the state has disposal rights, superior disposal rights than you. The state decides life and death, not the individual. So if you don't own it, who does? It's the state. And I mean, these are the charts, but I go through it in greater detail in the book. So this may sound overly simplistic right now, but I do actually explain it. Now, this is the crux of the whole thing. Moral debt for life enslavement, MDLE. Life enslavers create persons who provide continuous benefit to the life enslavers, right? So they create children for their benefit, and this is a continuous benefit, whether they're estranged, whether the child gets a D on his math test, whether the child is gay or straight. No, you benefit from the child's existence because you created the life slave. These benefits include providing meaning to the life enslaver, right? Purpose, emotional satisfaction, social status, legacy, and existential validation. The person created never agreed to provide these benefits, right? Because this avoids the whole non-entity argument or the non-entity problem when it comes to antinatalism. Because they're saying that you have a moral duty to someone who doesn't yet exist. No, we're saying that you have a moral duty to somebody who does exist, somebody who you just created, and now after they were created, you have a moral duty to them now. So they never agreed to provide you these benefits, right? The life enslavers extracted these benefits without providing compensation. And I want you to know when it comes to unjust enrichment, intent is not really it's not required. You don't have to be malicious. You don't have to have any like ill will against anybody. No, all you have to prove is the person received a benefit at your peril. This is an unjust enrichment. One party benefits from another without consent and without compensation. This constitutes unjust enrichment. Unjust enrichment creates a moral obligation to provide restitution, right? These are the basic elements under tort law. That there's a party that receives an unjust benefit to the other party's detriment, and then the other party has to pay restitution. Therefore, life enslavers owe a moral debt for life enslavement to those who they create. It doesn't matter if you're estranged. It doesn't matter that your child didn't come out the way that you wanted them to be. You have a moral duty regardless because you created this person and you benefited from their existence. Now, this, what is it, chapter 2 of my book, I talk about the state because it's not just the life enslavers who benefit, right? Then After you are brought into existence, the state benefits from your existence. So this is the dual breach structure. Um, the primary breach is from the life enslavers. They impose existence without consent, extract benefits, meaning, purpose, etc., never provide compensation, right? And then the secondary breach is from the state. The state prevents or prohibits opting out through criminal law, civil commitment. They extract benefits in the form of taxes, workforce, participation, and control, right? They never provide adequate compensation. So the parents rely on this. This is the dual breach right here, right? Because it's reciprocal. The parents need the state to enforce life enslavement, and then the state needs the parents to create the slave in the first place. So you, the victim, never consented to existence. You cannot opt out because it is criminalized, right? Total enslavement. You're trapped between two systems of exploitation. Each day compounds both harm, no legal escape available. What are you entitled to? From parents, you are entitled to a mandatory inheritance, which I call forced heirship. That is a technical term, forced heirship, which no jurisdiction in America applies forced heirship to adults. Forced heirship only applies to minors. But no, the moral debt applies no matter how old you are. They created a full human being. So I'm still going to leave leeway that if the life enslaver is married, then the spouse is still entitled to 50% of the life enslaver's property. But the other 50%, this would be a compulsory inheritance, right? So your children get 50% of your property to be divided equally. And they have to respect your autonomy. They have to, if you want to opt out to correct their mistake, then they can't stand in the way of it. There's actually more to it because I talk about how they have a moral duty for competent parenting. Basically, they have a moral duty to provide you with adequate skills so that you can become self-sufficient. They're not if they're incompetent, then that means that you don't become self-sufficient. You become dependent on them for the rest, or the state, right? Because they didn't provide you with any skills. They didn't give you a trade. They didn't leave you a business, and then you have to figure it out on your own. No, you were not a competent parent. So your moral debt for life enslavement is not discharged. From the state, the primary demand is for an unconditional right to medical assistance, right? But they're not going to do that because they're too focused on extracting benefits from you against your will. So they're trying to enslave you. So the second option, this is for those who say it's a slippery slope. What about those who are, they need to protect the vulnerable because they might be coerced into doing something that they don't actually want to do? Fine. You want to come up with your bullshit excuses? The second option is full material support in the form of socialism. I want y'all to know that socialism is just a carrot on a stick. It's not like I'm actually trying to advocate for socialism. That is not the primary goal. The primary goal is to make it prohibitively expensive for them to maintain a system of life slavery. So if they want to enslave you, they have to pay you for it, right? This is the moral case that I'm building. And so because it is prohibitively expensive to maintain a system, then the result is for the state to leave you the fuck alone, for hopefully for more people to adopt anti-natalism, because they will fully understand the moral responsibility that they're accepting, right? And Again, this is not, none of this is a legal requirement. This is a moral framework that if it becomes accepted, then you can hold people morally accountable. This is nothing to do with the law. All right, so this is what I was talking to y'all about, the life slaves ledger, the price of your involuntary existence, cost imposed. Physical, daily maintenance, deterioration, and ultimately death, right? Economic, 80,000 plus of involuntary labor and servitude of a life and a body that you never asked for, right? You have to work in order to maintain a life that you don't even want. You have to eat. Um, Psychological cost, existential threat. Um, by existential threat, I'm talking about lacking meaning for your life, lacking purpose, um, finding a reason to get up every day, uh, consciousness burden. The consciousness part is immeasurable, right? There's phobias, there's fear, there's anxiety, there's stress, depression, all that, and the root cause of it was the fact that you were brought into existence, right? The temporal cost. Just I guess I kind of got ahead of myself. The temporal costs are just having to eat every day, put on your clothes, do laundry, cut the grass. That's aside from the economic labor, but this is labor that costs for maintaining your life. Things that you have to do in order to, cook your own food, wipe your own ass, all those things. The social costs, forced relationships. You didn't have a say in which family you were born. You didn't have any say in the country you were born. You didn't, the community, none of that shit. Emotional labor, putting on a fake smile to make everybody else feel comfortable. Systemic. There's a whole chapter about this. The systemic injustice is the part that I think is crucial to this whole framework, because a lot of people don't understand antinatalism because they think life is so wonderful. They ignore the systemic injustices that you have to just suck up and swallow and just go on about your day. Capitalism, statism, how the courts are feckless. The courts are not really a forum to address your grievances, but they're really just a forum to legitimize itself. You can't use the courts to dismantle itself. And the courts are the one branch of government in which everyday citizens have direct contact with the state. So they're the philosopher kings. Their role is to legitimize the system, to basically tell you to go fuck yourself, but do it in a sophisticated way that makes you, well, it doesn't make you feel better. It makes them feel better, but they're basically, you go into their firm, you're going into a lion's den, right? And then they're going to take your exploitation and oppression and weaponize it against you and build case law for why their system is legitimate, right? So you don't get any help from them. It's not even designed to help you at all. It's designed to give legitimacy to the existing system. Identity. You have to carry your father's last name. Obviously you can change your last name, but most people don't. So regardless, even if you are estranged, you're carrying on your father's legacy. Your family's burden. Your family is going to stress you out. Your family has their own needs, even when you are an adult. I don't know. Some of y'all may have had better parents than I did, but both my parents, my mother is a narcissist. My father was a narcissist. So the control didn't stop even when I became an adult. Just complete sabotage of anything that I felt was important for me. No, it's all about them. So This is not something that you agree to. You thought that your parents were supposed to be your protectors, and they weren't. You were there to enrich their life, and you're entitled to compensation for it. The existential cost, meaningless with no solution, right? They're going to everything is so they resort to mysticism when it comes to the existential questions. It's always going to be turn to Jesus. It's always going to be, oh, everything happens for a reason. Oh, you'll figure it out. It'll come to you at some point, right? They can never just come out and tell you what the purpose of it is. It's always subjective. If it's never objective. Nobody can ever tell you the objective purpose for life because there is none, right? Except to be exploited by those who currently exist, because they're going to benefit from your existence. But outside of that, there is no objective purpose. Compensation received from life enslavers may be adequate parenting, right? That is their obligation. That is not compensation. Possibly an inheritance, but that still is not compensation. Everything that they did when you were a child was completely transactional. They're dead, right? And so the debt is uncollected. By the way, not everybody feels that they're entitled to a debt. Maybe you had good parents. Maybe you don't think that your parents owe you anything because they prepared you for success. And that's fine. Everybody has that right. You have a right to discharge the debt if you feel that you had good parents. But the debt is still owed, right? You can forgive the debt, but what I'm saying, the debt is universal. Everybody incurs this debt at birth. Maybe I'm not saying it right. They incur the moral debt for life enslavement. That starts at birth. From the state, you are entitled to a full moratorium on criminal laws prohibiting medical assistance and dying. And if not, then you're entitled to full socialism, right? Pay my bills, pay my transportation costs, pay my healthcare costs, pay my student loans, because my existence is not for my benefit, it's for your benefit. So all the slippery slope arguments, all the things about you're so compassionate, fine. This serves you, it doesn't serve me, so you need to pay for it. You want to have ethics, right? Because the only way that you can actually be happy in this life system, the system of life slavery, basically is to enslave somebody else, because that is the only thing that's going to give your life meaning, right? So if you decide to procreate, now you get to artificially give life to your meaning. Give meaning to your life at somebody else's expense. But if you're ethical and your ethics don't allow you to do that, then you're basically just stuck with the fact that your life doesn't serve a purpose, right? So there is no compensation for having ethics. So at the bottom line is that you got screwed. Now, this chart right here pretty much puts everything all together. I had to work on this chart like several times to get it right because it kept cutting off. It starts out with the disposal rights test, which proves that you don't actually own your life. And so that proves that you are a slave. The primary breach is from your parents who imposed existence without consent. They extracted benefits from you, meaning emotional satisfaction, legacy, social validation. You bear all the costs, consciousness, suffering, bodily maintenance burden, mortality awareness, inevitable aging and death, right? So the result is unjust enrichment, moral debt for life enslavement. And then on the other side is the secondary breach. Why are you still enslaved, right? The state prohibits opting out while extracting benefits. They extract benefits in a form of tax revenue, workforce participation, consumer spending. You bear all the costs, same as the primary breach. Forced participation in state institutions, right? Inadequate maintenance provided. And so the result is unjust enrichment, and you are entitled to restitution in the form of socialism. What life abolition demands from parents: mandatory inheritance, a minimum of 50% of the estate to children from the state. They must provide option one, the right to opt out, or two, socialism. The ultimate goal is to end procreate, or basically to promote antinatalism, or anarchy, because it basically it delegitimizes the entire structure, that they exercise so much control over our lives, a paternalistic role without any of the paternalistic responsibilities, right? Um, the forfeiture criterion, I guess. I mean, this is really tangential, but the forfeiture criterion is basically that the parents owe, the life enslavers owe a moral debt for life enslavement, and so it is dischargeable based on their role in their uh, life slaves' life, right? If they were good parents, whatever, competent parents. But what I'm saying is that everyone has a right, should have the right to opt out. So, assuming that we finally do get the right to opt out, um, those who are actually have life slaves, they don't get to opt out, right? There's criteria for them to be able. You have an absolute right to opt out if you don't have children, but if you do have children, then there's criteria for that. So, um, basically you have to pay you have to what I call it, you have to have a full accounting of all your property, right? And all the full disclosure of your property, and all of your life slaves have to consent to you being able to opt out, because there's a mortgage on your life that you voluntarily assumed by creating life slaves. So now your life doesn't belong to you, and this is not about state control. This is a debt that you voluntarily assume. So you have to give a full accounting of your property. And basically, if your life slaves don't agree to it, then you don't get to opt out, because your life slaves are entitled to an inheritance. So if you're still 50 or whatever, and you're still working, and you just want to know, you're going to have to work until you retire so that your life slaves can actually get. Maybe they can inherit a house, or maybe they can inherit enough money to go start a business or something. This is an obligation that you voluntarily assumed. So the two abolitions, right? The two abolitions are state life slavery, immediate priority, and all legal restrictions on medical assistance in dying, unconditional access for all competent adults, procreative life slavery, and procreation via accountability and cultural transformation. The integrated framework is the disposal rights test proves life slavery exists. The moral debt for life enslavement explains how you were enslaved in the first place. The state breach explains why you remain enslaved, and then life abolitionism demands liberation. So that's basically an overview of what it's going to be. But I break it down in greater detail in the book. Oh, I have some people here. Okay. Anyway, so that's it. I'm still trying to build up my new channel, so I'm not going to be talking about this much longer on this channel. I just, in the interim, I need to be able to live stream. So I'm going to download this video and then put it on the new channel. So y'all go check out my new channel, Life Abolitionism, and be sure to like it, share, and subscribe.